Part 1. Flash marriage of the era. Married to a crazy husband who amazes everyone. Author, Yuan. Chapter 1. Chapter 1 Fiancé. Chapter 1. Winter 1977. The train for educated youths roaring back to the city arrived at Yanjing. Yang Cixi stood guard at the exit of the station, nervously looking at the young man not far away. He was standing in the cold wind with his thin body, and his stern face looked aloof and arrogant. This is her fiancé Qin Yanxi. Compared with the youthful and energetic appearance in the photo, he is now mature, steady and eye-catching. I just wonder if his stepmother will regret not getting his stepsister engaged to him when she sees him later? Seeing that the person was about to leave, she stopped her random thoughts and called out to him tenderly, "Ah si, Qin Yanxi. Who are you?" Qin Yanxi looked at the girl in front of him. At most 20, with very fair skin, oval face, and big eyes. The rustic floral cotton padded jacket and cotton trousers cannot block her delicate beauty. Speaking softly, those who listen will get goosebumps. Yang Cixi looked at him and plucked up the courage to say, "I am your fiancé Cixi. Didn't my uncle and aunt write to you about our engagement?" Qin Yanxi was very indifferent. "Now I know, since you are your fiancé, go back and warm my bed." Yang Cixi blushed. Isn't this a gangster? She wanted to turn around and leave, but was afraid that she would not be able to communicate with her father. She clenched her fists and said in a voice as low as a mosquito, "Okay, are you cold? This is for you." Before coming, she specially prepared a cotton padded coat to keep out the cold, and now she offered it with both hands. Qin Yanxi was startled. For some reason, his irritable mood dissipated a lot because of her serious and sincere attitude towards him. He hesitated for a moment, took the coat and put it on, and said in a less concise tone, "Why don't my parents come in person?" Yang Cixi was thoughtful. If she told him that his sister-in-law gave birth to a baby and the whole family went to the hospital, would he be disappointed? What should he do if he concludes that his parents are partial and are trying to cause trouble? She pursed her lips and said shyly, "Come home with me first, and then talk slowly while I cover you in bed, okay?" Qin Yanxi's eyes were surprised, and there was a hint of unnaturalness in his cold face. He changed the subject and said, "Your name is Cixi, and you are the fourth at home." The word is added next to the word si, which means si, and there is only one half-sister below. Yang Cixi led him home. As soon as he entered the courtyard, he met Li Yue. Li Yue has the popular case Yang haircut, wearing a red, white, and gray plaid coat, a white scarf, brown corduroy trousers, and small black leather shoes. Her makeup is exquisite and full of Western style. Their eyebrows jumped when they saw them. 3 months ago, she was reborn. She was the one engaged to Qin Yanxi in her previous life. At first, she was extremely satisfied with the marriage. Because the Qin family lived in a courtyard house in Dongcheng district, the wealthiest area in Yanjing, and their parents had decent jobs. He himself has a high school degree and good looks. Everyone around her envied her for having a good husband. On the day Qin Yan resigned and returned to Beijing, he dressed up carefully and waited for him in the cold wind for 3 hours at the station. A glance lasts 10,000 years. I thought he would be satisfied with her beauty and style, but who would have thought that he would just ask, "Why didn't my parents come?" She forgot what she said at the time, and was slapped by him until her face was swollen. She came back alone. Her parents found out about her plight and instead of comforting her, they blamed her for being reckless and useless. Later they got married. Qin Yanxi completely exposed his perverted nature and took pleasure in torturing her all day long. Yang Cixi was arranged by her mother to marry a second-rate man near her grandma's home in exchange for a bride price. Who would have known that the second-rate boy was actually a dragon or a phoenix among men? After being allowed to do business in 1980, he quickly became the richest man in Yanjing City by virtue of his talent. Yang Sisi turned a pheasant into a phoenix. When she went out, she had a good reputation. She told the second-rate son to go east but not the west. Even because Yang Sisi said she hated her parents, she used her power to remove her father from her position and laid off her mother, which harmed them. Poor and impoverished, dead bodies lay on the streets. She wants to live her life again, and she wants to live a life like Sisi, and she wants to avenge her parents. Persuading his father to betroth Yang Sisi to Qin Yanxi and keeping her away from second-rate sons was only the first step. End of this chapter. Flash marriage of the era. Married to a crazy husband who amazes everyone. Author, Yuan. Chapter 2. Chapter 2 Amazing. ACI, she is the sister Yue I mentioned to you, Yang Sisi said. Qin Yanxi nodded slightly. Hello. Li Yue stuttered and responded, hey, hello. Stepmother Song Hanmi I walked out of the main room after hearing the commotion. When she saw Qin Yanxi, her eyes widened and she was extremely surprised. Sword eyebrows, starry eyes, sharp edges, and corners. With this appearance and figure, you can't find anyone else in the south and east of the city, right? Yu Weifei said that she had been in the countryside for 10 years and had been assimilated by low-quality country people. She was tired of living without getting engaged. How is this low quality? At that station, she knew he was of high quality. Yang Sisi calmly took in Song Hanmi's greedy and regretful look. He was quite uneasy in his heart, but he didn't show it on his face. He said obediently, Auntie, this is ACI. Song Hanmi came back to her senses and said enthusiastically, Yanxi, come and sit in the room. Sisi, you are a good cook. Please cook a bowl of noodles for Yanxi to pacify your stomach. Okay. Yang Sisi turned around and entered the kitchen. Song Hanmi's almost flattering voice came from behind, Yanxi, you have been at Northwest Farm for so many years, so you are considered senior. Our Yue works in the street office, let her talk to you about the current work policy. Mom, tell him Li Yue couldn't avoid Qin Yanxi and turned around to leave. She couldn't figure out why Qin Yanxi didn't treat Yang Sisi the way he treated her in his previous life. She followed Yang Sisi curiously. He asked quietly, Sister, was it awkward for you and Qin Yanxi to meet? What were they talking about? It's a bit embarrassing. We haven't talked for a few words. He doesn't like to talk, and I can't always take the initiative to speak. I'm afraid that people will think I'm long-winded. Yang Sisi because Li Yue has always shown kindness to her and answered all her questions. Li Yue didn't believe it and just chatted a few words. Qin Yan followed her back from the party and said, let me recount the situation at that time. How can Yang Sisi be so embarrassed? Using Qin Yanxi as a shield, my language organization skills are very poor and I can't explain clearly. Why don't I call ACI to come over and repeat the situation? I'm afraid he won't cooperate. It's better not to shout. Li Yue waved her hands hastily. Qin Yanxi has a dual personality and bipolar disorder. An impatient person may even beat the sisters. She had nowhere to run in her last life. Yang Sisi is here, if she goes to the countryside to hide and cannot come back, who will marry Qin Yanyan? She was worried and asked too many questions. Yang Sisi became suspicious and left on the pretext of having something to do, but Song Hanmi didn't listen. Yang Sisi closed the door and continued making noodles. She secretly ate a large bowl before starting to cook Qin Yanxi's portion. She placed 3 poached eggs under the noodles, cut 2 slices of beef and put them on top. She took the bowl to Qin Yan in the main room. In front of the banquet. It's a rare occasion for banquets, so why don't you just give me 2 slices of beef? If you don't know, you might think our family is stingy. For banquets, you eat first, and I'll get you some more. Song to show her generosity, Hanmi went into the kitchen herself. Yang Sisi smiled and pointed at the noodles. Qin Yan said the words with understanding, turned them over with chopsticks, and brought out a pile of poached eggs. He was stunned for a moment, with a hint of disbelief and a hint of surprise in his eyes. The warmth flowed through his heart gently, melting away the indifference on his face. Since childhood, it was the first time that someone fed me 3 eggs at once. A barely visible smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Have you eaten? Ying Sisi nodded. I'm full already. Eat quickly. Song Hanmei came back and saw the two of them sitting next to each other talking. She felt unhappy and secretly cursed her as a vixen. Facing Qin Yanci, he greeted him with a smile. Yanci, come on, beef. Thank you. Qin Yanci finished eating the noodles and was about to leave. I'll send you off, Ying Sisi said. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Flash marriage of the era. Married to a crazy husband who amazes everyone. Author, Yuan. Chapter 3. Chapter 3 Disdain. It's almost the Chinese New Year. Your grandma wants to see you. I'm going to take you over to see her. You change into nicer clothes and I'll send you the banquet. Song Hanmei had already made up her mind to stop Ying Sisi and Qin Yanci from talking. Before Qin Yanci could say anything about the marriage, he made clear arrangements for Ying Sisi with a false smile. As soon as he left the house, he revealed to Qin Yanci, the girl Sisi was born to a local woman when my husband went to the countryside. I didn't read a book when I was a child. I didn't know it was a girl when the pole fell over, and I didn't understand the rules of the city. Unlike Yue, she graduated from high school and has a decent job. The marriage with your family was originally decided on Yue. Yue said that Sisi had suffered a lot as a sister in the countryside, so if she has a good partner, she should stay close to her sister. What do you think about this? Qin Yanci directly sneered. Can't your daughter get married? Just let me choose. In this case, Sisi will be a big one, but you, a mean stepmother, will give birth to a small one. Song Hanmei's smile gradually disappeared, and the overwhelming anger came immediately. You don't know how to do it. I was interrupted by a voice. Yue's mother, who is this young man? The neighbor's eyes were full of surprise. Hello, Aunt, I am Qin Yanci, Sic's betrothed. I have something to do, so I'll go ahead while you're busy. Qin Yanci walked straight away. The neighbor clicked his tongue and said, Mom Yue, no wonder people say you are generous, handsome, and polite, and don't leave your daughter to outsiders. You are really a living Buddha. Song Hanmei covered her heart and felt so uncomfortable that she couldn't breathe. She went home and vented her anger on Sisi. I asked you to wash clothes, but you only wash clothes and not pants. Who will clean up the used bowls in the kitchen and throw them into the basin for soaking? It's a small thing to do. No, I work harder than anyone else to seduce a man. I just met him for the first time and then sat next to him. The dung beetle leaned on the door and pretended to be a hat nail, without checking whether he was worthy. Ying Sisi is the child of a bitch, and it is already a great gift for her to allow him to enter the house. Why should he steal her daughter's partner? She would never allow the little born to a vixen to marry better than her daughter. A flash of light flashed in her eyes, and she said sternly, take the gift and follow me to your grandma's house to give the gift. Ying Sisi's eyes were red with grievance. Since she came to this home, she has not had a moment of leisure. This woman is still dissatisfied with her. She really wants to resist, but when she thinks of being dependent on someone else, she can only swallow tears in her stomach. His voice was slightly choked and he replied, yes. Song Hanmei looked at her with disgust, looking cowardly and petty. I really don't know what the Qin family's vision is. You dare to let your daughter grow up, and let her be a cuckold before she gets married. Let's see if he still wants to accept Sisi at that time. Ying Sisi followed Song Hanmei to the Song family, and heard Li Yuwei's coquettish voice from a distance. "Grandma, I want to spend the new year with you this year. You're so old and you're still clingy." As soon as Ying Sisi entered the door, she saw Li Yuwei holding old Mrs. Song's arm and shaking her arm, and she couldn't help but feel envious in her heart. "Yuwei, why are you here?" Song Hanmei asked in surprise. "Look at what you said, can't Yuwei come to my place?" Old Mrs. Song's face dropped. Song Hanmei was so frightened that she quickly denied it. "I'm afraid that her chattering will disturb your rest." Mother Song made a sound and looked Ying Sisi up and down. "Isn't this girl the same Sisi?" Ying Sisi didn't like the look in Mrs. Song's eyes very much, as if she was an object waiting to be sold, just waiting for someone else to set a good price and sell it. "Yes, Sisi, I call you Grandma," Song Hanmei said. End of this chapter. Flash marriage of the era. Married to a crazy husband who amazes everyone. Author, Yuan. Chapter 4. Chapter 4 Calculation. Ying Sisi couldn't scream, and she didn't want to, so she held the corner of her clothes and remained silent. Song Hanmei couldn't help but cursed. Other people's children are just not well raised. They feed them good food and drink all day long without even shouting. "Mom, my sister is new here and doesn't dare to call anyone. I'll take her around to familiarize herself with the environment and relieve her nervousness." Li Yuwei pulled Ying Sisi out. Song Hanmei was so angry that she turned her elbows outward to ruin her good deeds. She had thought it through when she came and found an opportunity to take Ying Sisi to Feng Erhuang's house, lock the two of them in the house, and then call someone to catch him. The good news is that Ying Sisi's reputation is ruined and she has to marry Feng Erhui. After walking for a while, Li Yuwei said, "Sister, I suddenly remembered that I have an appointment with a friend. Why don't you go to the park in front and wait for me? You can bask in the sun there and it's very warm." Okay. Ying Sisi felt something was wrong when she was halfway gone. Li Yuwei always prided herself on being highly educated, highly qualified, and punctual and trustworthy to her friends. How could she suddenly remember her agreement with her friends after taking the initiative to take her to familiarize herself with the environment? "Did you deliberately drive her away?" She followed quietly. I saw Li Yuwei walking to the door of a large courtyard. He carefully arranged his clothes and hair, and said in an excited voice, "Is brother Feng at home?" Feng Er's son, named Feng Shuangzi, was very lazy and poor. At the age of 26, he still had no partner. When he saw a woman's eyes go straight, the girls and daughters-in-law who usually visited neighbors' houses hid when they saw him. This was the first time a woman came to him and called him brother. He felt that Li Yuwei was interested in him. He couldn't help but feel elated, and said in a smooth tone, "Where did I think she was a fairy? It turned out to be Sister Yuwei." Li Yuwei thought to herself, "It is true that a man relies on his clothes and a horse relies on his saddle. Feng Shuangzi, who is now unremarkable and even a bit clown, will become the male in the hearts of countless girls and young women when he puts on a customized suit and a high-end watch." She could not help but blush as she imagined the other party's success, and said rather shyly, "Brother Feng is really good at talking, how can he be such a fairy?" Feng Shuangzi couldn't hold back the joy when he received the response, "Come in and sit down, please." Li Yuwei hesitated. She wanted to marry him, but she didn't want to ruin her reputation. "But if you miss this opportunity to contact him, you will have to wait until the Chinese New Year." On this day in a previous life, Ying Sisi was tricked by her mother into entering Feng's house and blocking the door. Ying Sisi was afraid of slamming the door hard, and outsiders thought she had been tricked by Feng Shuangzi. Her father felt that Ying Sisi was embarrassed and decided to let Ying Sisi marry Feng Shuangzi. After Ying Sisi entered the Feng family, Feng Shuangzi changed from being idle to becoming diligent and capable. Not long after, I heard that he had earned $1,000 from the black market. Dress Ying Sisi like a city woman. Even if Ying Sisi later failed to give birth to a child, he would not bear to treat her harshly and would still love and pamper her. Ying Sisi was already good looking, and because men piled money on her, she became even more beautiful and elegant. But himself, the person tortured by Qin Yanxi, was neither a human nor a ghost. Thinking of this, desire overcomes reserve. Well, why don't you go and sit in a nearby tea house? When Feng Shuangzi heard that there was something going on, he couldn't wait to say, okay. Ying Sisi, who was hiding in the hiding place, was stunned. She didn't understand why Li Yue, an innocent girl, took the initiative to strike up a conversation with a man who looked like a gangster. If it were her, let alone talking to this man, if he was less than 1 meter away from her, she would beat him to death. Ying Sisi left full of doubts. After being coaxed into Beijing by her biological father for 3 months, she found out about the location of the black market in the city. The products there were much richer than the markets outside, and the prices were fair and cheap. She planned to take this time to buy some noodles from fellow villagers, make them into twists and sell them there. There are special guards at the entrance of the black market. They are very alert when they see Ying Sisi. Girl, the front is the courtyard where people live, we can't go any further. You should nervously take out the admission letter you brought with you. Hello big brother, I have proof. She spent 2 yuan to buy the certificate. She hesitated for a long time, fearing that people would not recognize it next time. Fortunately, the little brother watching the wind said after looking at it, let's go in. End of this chapter. Flash marriage of the era. Married to a crazy husband who amazes everyone. Author, Yuan. Chapter 5. Chapter 5 Plan. Ying Sisi felt the stone in her heart fall to the ground. She took out a pack of cigarettes and stuffed it into the other person's hand. Thank you, brother. I hope you will accept your kindness. The man took the cigarette with a very kind attitude and warned, after entering, if you hear people shouting to run away, you must run eastward regardless of whether you have bought anything. Okay. Ying Sisi thanked her and stepped into the market. Rice, flour, grain, and oil, meat stamps, non-staple food stamps, books, stationery, daily necessities, etc. can all be exchanged at equal value. Ying Sisi walked around and finally walked to the noodle stall. Her arm was suddenly hit by someone, causing her to stagger a few steps to the side. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Ying Sisi steadied herself and looked back. An old lady bowed her head to apologize. There was a book of stamps with open pages scattered on the ground. The flowers are green and beautiful. The buildings and scenery above are like the mountain and river scenery described by extremely educated youth. I remember the educated youth said that stamps are of great collection value, and those that are old are rare things that can be found but not found. If you meet someone who knows the goods, they can be worth thousands of gold. She was attracted immediately. The aunt raised her eyes and saw Ying Sisi staring at her stamps. She immediately said, "Girl, do you want to buy stamps? These are old items from 60 or 70 years ago. There are hundreds of stamps in a book, and they only cost 8 yuan. Can things from 60 or 70 years ago still be used? How dare you ask for 8 yuan, even if you go to the scrap collection station, no one will even bother to talk to you," said the stall owner next to him. The aunt replied, "I didn't let you buy it, I was asking about this girl." Ying Sisi really wanted it, but the price offered by the aunt was too high, and she couldn't afford 8 yuan. "Can I take a look first?" "Of course you can. These are all my family's personal possessions. I would be reluctant to sell them unless absolutely necessary." Ying Sisi turned over the items one by one to make sure they were from a long time ago. "Are you willing to give up your love for 3 yuan? I only have 3 yuan. Ying Sisi honestly took out all the change, which she had secretly withheld when buying groceries for Song Hanmei. The middle-aged woman was in a dilemma. The noodle stall owner said, "Girl, you are not a well-off person in your dress. If you spend 3 yuan to buy something that you cannot eat or drink and go home, your family will not beat you to death. Yang Sisi began to sway when she heard this. All her knowledge came from the educated youth in the village. If there is no way to turn stamps into money, then the things you buy are just like waste. Afraid that Yang Sisi would regret it, the aunt put the stamps into her arms. 3 yuan is 3 yuan, I will suffer a little loss. The noodle stall owner said, "Girl, think clearly, don't be deceived." Yang Sisi thought carefully and said, "I have thought it through." She handed the money to her aunt. The middle-aged woman was happy and regretful at the same time. My family has been collecting them for decades, but I never expected that they would only be worth 3 yuan in the end. How about? Yang Sisi touched her empty wallet and felt regretful. In order to save this money, he fought with Song Hanmei many times in battles of wits and courage. Now that the capital is gone, what should we do next? I have something else to do, so let's go. The middle-aged woman walked in a hurry. Yang Sisi fired her bow and walked back with the stamps in her arms without turning back. Unknowingly, I returned to Li's house. As soon as he entered the door, he was stopped by Li's father, Li Junlu, who was at home from get off work, and asked rudely, "Do you know you're back? Follow your mother out, and don't tell you when you left, and let your mother and your sister look for you for most of the day. Do you think you are like this, daughter? Do you want to be a sister?" Li Yue was the first to answer, "Dad, forget it because it's the Chinese New Year. My sister didn't mean it." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Flash marriage of the era. Married to a crazy husband who amazes everyone. Author, Yuan. Chapter 6. Chapter 6 Resistance. Song Hanmei hates the fact that iron cannot become steel. She really doesn't know what her daughter thinks. First he asked for marriage, then he ruined his own plan, and now he pleads for Yang Sisi. She couldn't help but said, "Yue, don't always protect Sisi. Sisi will be so ignorant of the rules when she gets married in the future. Her husband's family should say that she is uneducated." Yang Sisi has been arranged and questioned countless times, and she can no longer bear it. His little face was flushed, but his eyes were firm. After a long time, he complained in a crisp voice, "I know you are unhappy with me, but you are not qualified to criticize me with the word uneducated. Also, you are facing Qin Yanxi today. I've seen the enthusiasm shown. You think I'm not worthy of Qin Yanxi, but Yue is more worthy. Why bother beating around the bush?" "Sister, what are you talking about?" Li Yue immediately clarified her relationship with Qin Yanxi. "You are already engaged to Qin Yanxi, and he is my brother-in-law. How unpleasant would it be to spread the word about me? It's in vain that I usually treat Qin Yanxi. You are so kind, aren't you ungrateful?" Song Hanmei was even more angry. "Damn girl, she usually keeps silent and pretends to be a little white rabbit, but she can't expect to be so sharp-tongued." She actually slapped her down. "Jun Lu, look at this child, where does he show any respect for his elders?" Yang Sisi took a deep look at Li Yue. How could her reasoned reply to Song Hanmei become ungrateful? Can she understand that Li Yue thinks that she should be subject to Song Hanmei's uneducated words? So, Li Yue's original kindness in front of her was all hypocrisy? Thinking of this, she exploded completely. "You are the one to beat me up. You say you feel sorry for me in front of me, but will you give me a good face behind me? From the moment I got here, I was ordered by you like a maid, washing myself all day long. There are endless clothes and endless housework. Your daughter's hands are white and delicate. Do you want to look at mine?" Yang Sisi raised her rough, calloused hands to her. "I have never suffered so much in the village." She pointed at Li Junlu again. Didn't you say you picked me up to enjoy your blessings? Or are you just using me to build your future? Lee Junlu. I will go back to the village tomorrow. You can love whoever you want. Ying Sisi rushed back to the room. Song Hanmei stamped her feet and said anxiously, "Old Li, look at the precious daughter you brought back from all the way." Li Junlu naturally couldn't let Ying Sisi go. The marriage with the Qin family has been arranged. The bride-to-be ran away and offended the Qin family. Not to mention his future, there was no way out. He hurriedly stepped forward and knocked on the door of Sic's room. Sisi. Ying Sisi had already packed her few luggage and opened the door to face Li Junlu. Li Junlu took her bag and said, "You kid, you have such a bad temper. If you have any dissatisfaction, you can speak out. Why are you making a fuss? Who is making trouble? Give me the things back." Ying Sisi pretended to grab them. Li Junlu dragged her into the house. "Sisi, let's talk. We have nothing to talk about." Li Yue could not recover for a long time. In her previous life, Ying Sisi and Feng Shuangzi were arranged by their mother to live in the same room today, which ruined their reputation. "I lost my temper when I got home and threatened to go back to the countryside." She has been speaking for Ying Sisi today. Why is Ying Sisi still making trouble? Is it possible that history cannot be changed? Thinking of this, she panicked. Suppressing the panic in her heart, she tried to say in a calm tone, "Mom, you shouldn't say that about your sister." One issue she had always ignored was her mother's attitude towards Sisi. Be kind in front of others, but mean in front of others. Since Ying Sisi moved into this home 3 months ago, her mother has not done any housework. Perhaps the pressure on Ying Sisi was too much in daily life, which caused the other party to suddenly go crazy. End of this chapter. Flash marriage of the era. Married to a crazy husband who amazes everyone. Author, Yuan. Chapter 7. Chapter 7. Door to Door. Song Hanmei's face was so gloomy that she could shed tears. At this time, why are you still facing Ying Sisi? You are really not afraid that she will have a better life than you in the future? Li Yue was speechless. She could never tell her mother about her rebirth. Even if I say it, my mother won't believe it. In order for Sisi to be able to marry Qin Yanci smoothly, she gritted her teeth and said, "Mom, Qin Yanci is not what you imagined, so don't make any mistakes. You'd better go and apologize to your sister. After all, she is also Dad's daughter." Song Hanmei was furious. Li Junlu in the room was silent for a moment, seeming to consider his words. "Sisi, you see that when you came to this house, you never called Auntie Mom once, and she didn't care about you, which shows that she is a kind and generous person. The reason why I ask you to work is that I want you to be more diligent so that your in-laws will like you. Secondly, she is afraid that you will think that she does not treat you as one of her own family members. After all, do you think any of the guests work there? Isn't it all done by the master?" Ying Sisi almost laughed out of anger. So she has to thank Song Hanmei for her training and for treating her as one of her own family members? She did not follow Li Junlu's example and said bluntly, "I can't bear such good treatment." Li Junlu sighed, and then followed her wishes. "Is it okay if I don't ask you to do it? You can be the bride in peace." Ying Sisi was still upset, but she didn't really want to leave. After all, she had so many stamps in her hand that she needed to sell. "Who will you sell it to when you return to the countryside?" She puffed out her cheeks and made an awkward hum. Li Junlu comforted her for a while, then walked away, closed the door, turned around and met Li Yue's eyes. "Yue, when you have free time in the future, you can also share some housework with Sisi." "Dad, I didn't expect that my sister would get so angry because of my recent laziness. I will apologize to her." The more sensible Li Yue appears, the more unreasonable and unreasonable Ying Sisi becomes. Li Junlu patted Li Yue on the shoulder. "You are still considerate. Children raised in the village are indeed not good. Usually he pretends to be submissive and easy to talk to. In fact, there is no sense of propriety. He said with some pity, I heard from your mother that Chin Yancy grew up tall and handsome. When she asked you to settle, you were not. Dad, my sister has no education and no job, so she needs this marriage more than I do. Good boy, you are wronged. You have done this for Sisi, and you are afraid that she will not be grateful. Young Sisi had excellent hearing. Even though they were separated by a door and the father and daughter deliberately suppressed their voices, she still grasped the content of their conversation. They are indeed a family, even the hypocrisy is the same. Fortunately, after this incident, she completely understood Li Yue. She also knew that this marriage was given to her by Li Yue. Chin Yancy has excellent conditions in all aspects, but Li Yue doesn't want him, and even avoids him like a snake or scorpion. Instead, he favors the ugly second-rate guy. Unconventional. The only possibility is that Li Yue knew the shortcomings of Chin Yancy. Chin Yancy has been in the northwest, so Li Yue can't reach him, right? She really couldn't figure out the reason, so she decided to visit the Chin family tomorrow and ask the neighbors about Chin Yancy's personality. Early the next morning, Yang Sisi secretly brought some snacks to Chin's house in the East District. She came only twice. The first time was a blind date with Chin's mother who replaced Chin Yancy, and the second time was an engagement. At this time, the door of the Chin family was locked. She stretched out her hand and knocked on the door, "Ah-si-I, ah-si-I." With the second sound, there was movement in the house. "Why are you here? Go back." Yang Sisi could hear the anger hidden in the other party's voice. "Is there anyone in the Chin family?" At this time, the neighbor's wife by the door stuck her head out and watched. Yang Sisi glanced at it and continued to knock on the door, saying softly, "ACI, I came here specially to see you. You open the door first. It's very cold outside." End of this chapter. Flash marriage of the era. Married to a crazy husband who amazes everyone. Author, Yuan. Chapter 8. Chapter 8 Care. Soon, the door was opened. The young man's eyes were filled with impatience, and his body exuded a depressing and cold aura. Yang Sisi felt it and couldn't help but feel nervous. She plucked up the courage and said, "What's wrong with you? You seem to be very angry." She looked around. It was quiet in the yard. "Is there anyone at home?" After walking a few steps forward, I saw from the corner of my eye that the side room was in a mess. It is Chin Yancy's room. He originally lived in the main house. The eldest brother of the Chin family already had 3 children besides the child he was giving birth to in the hospital. 2 sons and 1 daughter. The eldest girl is 7 years old, the second and third are boys, one is 5 years old and the other is 3 years old. The children slept in separate beds and occupied Chin Yancy's original room. Did he smash the house because of this? His temper is so bad. She deliberately covered her mouth and exclaimed, "Ah, has there been a burglar in your house?" Chin Yancy opened his mouth, "Yeah." Yang Sisi stepped into the room. The bed, table, boxes, and clothes were all in a mess. She reached out and straightened the table and chairs. While supporting the bed, she said, "ACI, I can't move it, can you help me?" Chin Yancy still didn't speak, but fortunately someone came to help. The two of them worked together to set up the bed, and Yang Sisi closed the door. The room was still cold. The radiator must be frozen. Isn't he too cold? She reached out to hold his hand, and the coldness penetrated her limbs. She shivered because of the ice. She endured the coldness to warm him. "Your hands are so cold, are they cold? You don't know how to take care of yourself. It's time to eat." Sudden contact and concern. Like a warm light, slowly melting the ice around someone. At this moment, his heart opened up, and a slight smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. No. Try to see if you can fix the heater first, and then I'll cook you some food. Good. Yang Sisi felt relieved and entered the kitchen. Only half a bowl of rice and 2 eggs are left. The stove also went out. The Qin family's parents won't live in the work unit anymore, right? Have they forgotten the Qin banquet? She thought that children with parents would be very happy. It turns out that a child who is not loved is no different from an orphan. She took new briquettes with a pair of fire tongs and went to her neighbor's house to change them for charcoal. The neighbor wanted to speak but stopped. Yang Sisi said directly, "Madam, if you have anything to say, just say it, I can listen." The neighbor waved his hand and said, "I've also heard that there is something wrong with Yanxi's spirit. If you like to fight with others, you should be careful. Is he mentally ill? He looks fine. Did he attack someone for no reason? Oh, yes, he is jealous and vengeful, and has a twisted personality. When he was studying, he would beat up his classmates who did better than him. He would get excited and take action over the smallest things, just like a psycho. His family is really evil, knowing that she was emotionally unstable and asked him to work in such a far place, and even said she wanted to marry him. She is still such a beautiful and hard-working girl. Her son is a talented person, but the person he is looking for is not half as good-looking as this one. Perhaps there is some misunderstanding. Madam, thank you for your help." Yang Sisi left with her thoughts in mind. Going back to Qin's house, I took a quick look at the wing. The neighbor said he was jealous, vengeful, and emotionally unstable, and was carefully checking the radiator. With his lowered eyebrows, he doesn't look like a person with a twisted personality. However, the anger he occasionally showed did scare her a little. Let her observe. If it really doesn't work, just run away from the marriage. Anyway, no one asked her for her opinion when they got engaged. She returned to the kitchen, immediately replaced the charcoal, and then washed and steamed the rice. Qin Yanxi walked in. "Sisi, the heating is ready." Yang Sisi raised a smile and gave him a thumbs up. "That's awesome." She took out the snacks tightly wrapped in her pocket and gave them to his mouth, as a reward for fixing the heater. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Flash marriage of the era. Married to a crazy husband who amazes everyone. Author, Yuan. Chapter 9. Chapter 9 Heartbeat. Qin Yanxi suddenly laughed. "Do you think I'm a child?" "It's the object," Yang Sisi corrected. Qin Yanxi felt strange. He bit his snack and said vaguely, "Yeah, the target." Yang Sisi thought for a second and took out a stamp. "Have you seen this?" Qin Yanxi's eyes lit up and he looked over and over. Where did the stamps from the Republic of China come from? Yang Sisi was secretly surprised. He seemed to really understand. She pretended not to care and said, "I picked it up. I heard people say that old stamps are very valuable. Is it true?" "It's true. I studied and collected them when I was studying. In my opinion, such a piece is worth at least 7 or 8 yuan. Yang Sisi could not suppress her secret joy. 7 or 8 yuan for a stamp. She counted it yesterday and found that there were more than 130 photos in that book. Different ages. It can be traced back as far as the last century. If one was worth so much and one was sold, wouldn't she make a fortune?" She suppressed the corners of her mouth that were about to turn up. 7 or 8 yuan. Where can I sell it? Qin Yanxi, in the antique market. These places are very hidden now, and ordinary people should not be able to find it. Are you selling it? I will ask someone to find out later. Yang Sisi was excited and grabbed his hand excitedly. "ACI, you are really my lucky star." If she were to find a place by herself, she might not know how long it would take to find the antique market. Qin Yanxi lowered his eyes and landed on her hands. Compared with his dark skin, she was really white as green onion. Her skin texture was different from the delicate one on her face, it was very rough. As same as him. Means the working hand. For some reason, his heartbeat was racing and his throat was dry. He was thinking about the snack she had just fed him, and when her fingers were about to touch his lips, he should bite them to taste the taste. Or maybe let her go to warm the bed. Anyway, they are an unmarried couple, and she agrees. At this time, there was the sound of the door opening outside. There was a burst of noise. Ying Sisi went out first. A young couple holding a child came into view. The young man was dressed in navy blue cotton padded clothes, and the woman was wrapped tightly in a coat. They were followed by a middle-aged woman with a haggard face. They are Qin Yanxi's eldest brother, sister-in-law, and mother. Ying Sisi took the initiative to say hello, auntie, hello, brother and sister-in-law. Sisi, are you here at our family banquet? Qin Yanxi appeared from the kitchen. Mother Qin was stunned for a moment, then her eyes turned red, and she quickly stepped forward. Yanxi, you are back, you have grown so tall. She raised her hand to touch the other person's face, but was dodged. Mother of Qin froze and murmured, you have lost weight and become darker. The farm is sunny and the life is hard. How can I not be thin or black? I can't compare to you. I stay in Yanjing and enjoy the blessings, and everyone becomes white and fat. Qin Yanxi spoke with a gun and a stick. The family had nothing to say in reply. Ying Sisi was surprised that it was the first time she heard him say so many words in one go. The eldest sister-in-law of the Qin family was called Lu Yuechun. She softened the atmosphere and said, during the banquet, would you like to see your little niece? Not interested. Qin Yanxi went straight back to his room. Banquet speech. Qin's mother chased him. Lu Yuechun's worried eyes turned from Qin Yanxi's back to Ying Sisi after a moment. When did Sisi come? I just came here not long ago. Ying Sisi accompanied Lu Yuechun back to the house and looked at the child closely. Fair and fair, with long eyelashes. She praised, she looks so cute. When you get married, you should also give birth to one as soon as possible. Ying Sisi said in her heart, you have taken over the house, where will we live when we give birth? She didn't have a decent place to live when she was a child, and she still didn't have a child. What's the difference between the child and her? She doesn't want her children to experience the hardships of life from an early age. With a coquettish look on his face, he said, sister-in-law, please stop teasing me. End of this chapter. Flash marriage of the era. Married to a crazy husband who amazes everyone. Author, Yuan. Chapter 10. Chapter 10, Solicitation or Notification. This girl is still shy, Lu Yuechun joked. Ying Sisi was even more embarrassed and ran back to the kitchen to avoid people. When the rice is steamed, add eggs and fry a large portion of egg fried rice. As soon as it was ready, there was a bang, and then Qin's mother left Qin Yan's room with an angry look on her face. Had a dispute with Qin Yanxi and was kicked out? Qin Yan said goodbye and slammed the door? Then if I go there now, will I be angered? Isn't it rude to leave directly? After struggling for a moment, she picked up the rice bowl and stepped forward, gently pushing the door open. The wooden door suddenly opened. Qin Yanxi sat on the edge of the bed. He originally looked down at the ground, but now he turned his face. His wheat-colored face was a bit pale, and his eyes were reddish, hiding murderous intent. After a second, he said coldly, you can leave. Ying Sisi was afraid of being treated as a punching bag, so she held her breath and carefully put down the bowl and chopsticks, and replied weakly, oh, the food is here, remember to eat it. She turned around and tripped over his foot because of her nervousness. She tilted her body, threw herself on him, and touched his face with her lips. The two people looked at each other. The depressing atmosphere was immediately replaced by ambiguity. Yang Cixi lowered her eyelids and her ears were red. I didn't mean it. Her voice was soft and slightly panicked. Slender, white hands were pressed against his shoulders, and the heat brought by his breath spread over his face, tickling and heart-warming. The hatred and anger clogging Qin Yanxi's chest seemed to disappear all of a sudden. What followed immediately was a violent heartbeat. He stared at her and unconsciously raised his hand to reach her waist. Yang Cixi stood up one step ahead of him, but she was at a loss what to do. The food, you have to eat it while it's hot. Qin Yanxi was startled for a moment, then sat down at the table again, when the tabletop suddenly made a soft sound. An extra cup of steaming water. He looked at her and then at the teacup. My heart felt warm and unusually calm. She said in a gentle tone, my mother said that our wedding is scheduled for the 15th day of the first lunar month. We will definitely be very busy preparing for the wedding after the new year. It's only a few days before the new year. After noon today, I plan to go to the street to get an identity certificate. I will wait for it at the care tomorrow. What do you think about people asking us to get a marriage certificate? Yang Cixi's heart was ringing with alarm bells. Get a certificate? Is it soliciting opinions or informing? Educated youth say that getting married in the city and getting a certificate is considered a serious couple. She didn't even understand him yet. Can I get married? There seems to be no reason to refuse. Let me go home and prepare. Yang Cixi planned to leave immediately. Because she complied with his wishes and warmed the bed when they first met, and she had no intention of teasing him just now, the way he looked at her now changed. Like a wolf staring at its prey. If he continues to stay, he will definitely do something else. Even if you get the certificate tomorrow, you are still an unmarried couple today. Too intimate and unruly. Without waiting for him to speak, she walked to the main room and prepared to greet the other 3 members of the Qin family. As soon as we arrived at the door, Lu Yuechun's anxious voice could be heard faintly in the room. Mom, I don't feel sorry for your money, but I think it's fun for everyone to live together and take care of each other. Since we separated, we have been busy with our own things, so we probably won't see each other for a week. Yanxi has been away from home for 10 years, don't you want to see more? Qin Jin, do you think what I said is right? Qin Jin is Qin Yanxi's eldest brother. He echoed, if we live separately and visit our neighbors, we will definitely discuss it. Well, he said he won't buy a new house and he won't get married. Do you believe it? Anyway, I don't believe it. Sci is recognized by everyone as a beautiful woman. What man wouldn't want her? She's at the right age for the banquet. How can I not feel itchy? Maybe while we were away, the 2 of them had already made a relationship. They just got it? I'm sure 11 Chi, how about we make a bet? If the banquet doesn't last the new year, I'll have to ask you to arrange his marriage. Request for votes. End of this chapter.